Well, a very good morning and welcome to a foggy Norway. We're pretty much in the centre of Norway. Beitostolen hosting the next round of the cross-country World Cups. If you head, a couple of just over 100 kilometres west of Lillehammer, you won't be far away from this venue. It's not very high at, something like 250, 300 metres of altitude. It's not a massive town, a full-time population of 247. Not 247,000, but 247. So they've done well to get the right to host this round of the World Cup. Therese Johaug is undoubtedly the star of the show so far. She's back in yellow. Remember, she's had a 2-year ban for a controversial use of a lip salve, and she was frustrated really because initially it was a couple of weeks, then it was a year, then it was extended to 2 years, and she kept setting her sights on her return. But my goodness, she won her first ever World Cup back, and she hasn't looked back since then. She's won 3 in a row, heading maybe towards that record of 6 distance World Cup victories in succession.
It has been quite phenomenal, her return, and from the 4 races, it was only the sprint race where she was off the high point on the podium, so 3 wins out of 4 starts.
Keeping a careful eye on the opposition. Doesn't look as though she's going to have it all her own way this season, because the Swedes are on very good form indeed, particularly one Ebba Andersson, who came very close to taking victory in Lillehammer last weekend. So there are the points in the overall. Johaug ahead, not a bad lead, 91 at this stage of the season. Andersson up in second. Andersson, a youngster, 21 years old. We did see her out in Pyeongchang, finished 4th in the skiathlon. Charlotte Kalla, who's been there for ages for the Swedish team, in 3rd. Östberg 4, looked on good form on the final day in Lillehammer. Is she going to get a win today? And Krista Palmer-Koski, the ever-present Palmer-Koski, is threatening, but not on her best form quite yet. So Mike Dixon, Patrick Winston with you throughout the day. Women's 15-kilometre freestyle, which is unusual. A men's 30-kilometre freestyle later on. Both going in the time trial, so it's going to take a while to get them underway. But a small field, Mike.
Very small, only 59 in the women's field, and later only 71 in the men's field. So it's all going to be very exciting. They're about to start very, very soon.
Welcome back to Beitostolen. Better make our first correction of the day. We're at 900 metres, not 250 metres. I was looking at the population when I read that one out. So 900 metres, not too bad. We've seen a couple of races at over 1,400. There's a big, big difference. And most athletes having to go up to around 1,000 metres to find snow early season. Been a mix. The snow's come late to this part of the world. I know Hemsedal, not far away from here, has struggled in the early season. There's Charlotte Kalla. What's she going to do today? Looked a little bit laboured, and I was slightly surprised to see her let Andersson go past her without that normal Kalla fight.
Yeah, Kalla, that was last weekend. Hopefully she'll find some of her punch back. We often see her so strong at the beginning of the season, Patrick, and then just before Christmas she tapers off. And I've always said, or we've always said, she gets kind of bored. She needs to get away back to her friends and family, and then she always seems to come back to after Christmas very strong as well. I think she's one of these athletes that get a little stale. But we'll have to wait and see. She's got a grandstand view today, though, Patrick. Start number 57. Kalla's got everybody, practically everybody, in terms of big names ahead of her.
That's Hedda Amundsen. No relation of Roll, I believe. But what a great name to have. Spelling not quite the same. And she goes number 1. On goes the transponder, both legs. In the old days, it just used to be one leg. You had to remember which one to throw forward going across the line.
The days have changed. I'll tell you what, there's the biathlon range there, 30-lane range, international range. And what I was about to say, what's great to see is the natural snow around. It's quite cold as well, minus 5.3.
Yeah, minus 6.5 when most of the athletes arrived at the stadium, so it's warming up a fraction. Now let's have a look at the profile. The profile down the bottom is where you really want to get your information.
And look at the switchbacks, Patrick. So you're going to see people around you. We're going to see more switchbacks. That's the huge climb. It's over a period of 500 meters. You climb 49 meters. So a brutal climb. And look at all the switchbacks as we come back into the stadium area.
Yeah, it's a compact race course. And excellent. Actually, Beitostolen voted a couple of times the best cross-country resort in Norway. Now, that is some award. And, you know, generally goes to places like Sjusjen, but Beitostolen's got good tracks, 320 kilometers of cut track. And generally, the award goes to the venue that prepare their tracks the best, because everywhere has a good length of track. It's just who gets out the most, who gets those piston bullies running day after day.
Well, that's a good accolade to have the best, allegedly best venue. But yes, they do put the snow early. There's Jess Diggins. I think we'll see better from Jess today, bib 41.
Stadlober goes 55. Small field, as we said, only 59 starters. So it's going to take just under half an hour to get everyone out on the tracks. The fans are here. You've got to love them. And they'll be enjoying the fact that they've had 2 successive cross-country World Cups in Norway. And great for the youngsters from this area. It's quite a difficult area to get to, actually, Mike.
It is. It's the bus up from Norway. What, 2.5 from Norway, from Oslo. From Oslo, it's not an easy connection, but when you get up here, it's absolutely beautiful. Little amphitheater of cliffs all around at the top end of the village, and what the highest mountain, 1,607, just at the top end of the village.
So this is down as a 15K, but it's closer to 14 than it is 15. Bearing that in mind, what sort of time are we expecting? 35, 36 minutes, something like that?
It's difficult to say in these new snow conditions as well. I think we might be looking more at 41, 42.
Yeah, the snow has come and thickened after the final track preparation has been done. So you don't really want to be in the first 10 starters. And Evelina Settlin, who starts number 9 for Sweden, she's certainly got a chance of finishing top 10, but I don't think she'll enjoy the fact that she's got an early start today. We've got, how many Norwegians are there? There's
15.
Yeah, 15 Norwegians, which is 25% of the field. Don't be surprised to see a clean sweep. Although I think nowadays that's less likely, particularly with Marit Bjørgen retired. She's won here on 3 occasions.
I think this course suited the strength of Marit Bjørgen. She would always make a move or gain time on she was so strong on that fearsome climb I talked about. Rise of 50 meters over just 550 meters track time. It is, look at the snow, Patrick. That really is for Hedda Amundsen going first. She's got 5Ks of recent snowfall to plough through.
Have a nice trip.
Of course, it has been prepared and pressed earlier today, but that was over an hour and a half ago.
Well, this is real winter, and the fans still flooding into the stadium. We're only 30 seconds or so, less than that, away from the start for Amundsen. Comes from Asker Ski Club. She's only 20. Saw her racing in Gola early in the season. She was, what, 40 seconds or so behind Murud, who put in a good performance in Lillehammer last weekend. Big opportunity, good race here, and she'll be top of the list for a possible place in the Norwegian team for later in the season.
What a big experience, though, Patrick, at home in Norway, bib number 1. She knows full well she'll get a lot of camera time. And that's a powerful, positive start. Can she maintain that pace, though, for the next, well, 43, 45 minutes?
I think it's unlikely. Poles look very long. Now, Johansson, as you can see, very, very successful at Junior World Championship level. She actually beat Amundsen in the 10 free. When was that? At 23rd of November, I think it was. And we saw her in Lillehammer, made the Norwegian team for the mini tour, finished 42nd, which is not a bad performance. Emily Fletten, 3rd Norwegian. And the host nation always putting in a few extra competitors, as is their right. Fletten comes from Gull, which is just down the road from Hemsedal, one of Norway's best alpine ski resorts, owned by the Swedes.
Oh, one up for the Swedes today at least. Fletcher, well, she's had 3 World Cup stars before, only 3. She's 26-year-old, and nice that she's getting another star today. It's all looking very, very calm in the warm-up pens. It's normally a bit more active.
Evelina Pipo, first of the non-Norwegians. She's from Finland, comes from Vuokatti actually, which is a venue that I know a lot of British skiers have been to, simply because it's got a tunnel. So a trip there in November, you're guaranteed some skiing. If you're lucky, you get outside. If you're not lucky, you've still got, what is it, a K and a half indoors in a tunnel?
1.25, I think. But what a facility, all year round, guaranteed to get your practice, your technique worked on indoors.
Yeah, the smell's not so good, but
no.
And the view is non-existent, but you can get some Ks in. So Elina Rönnlund for Sweden. She won a 10-kilometer freestyle in Idrefjäll, which is why she's got the call-up today. Idrefjäll, one of the very first resorts to make artificial snow for a cross-country track. They'd done it on Alpine before, but they suddenly saw that if they could put down a 5K track, they were guaranteed to get some cross-country teams visiting early on. So Punki.
This is Kyllönen, actually, a change unwell this morning. It's Punki, so Kyllönen brought in instead. That's always a bit nerve-wracking when you're not supposed to be on the list and then you get the call up in the morning of the race.
Well, we saw that in the biathlon events over the last couple of days. A surprise entry doesn't really do your chances too much good. Caitlin Miller, the first of the Americans. Björnsson is here, Diggins is here as well, and Rosie Brennan also racing, another of the Americans that comes out of Alaska. So many of their top skiers coming out of Alaska. And no Keegan Randall this year. Keegan diagnosed with breast cancer over the summer, just after she took her Olympic gold, actually. And there's been a big move to promote breast cancer. And everyone, of course, on the tour wishing Keegan well.
Yeah, tough time, and Jeff, who used to do the interviews here at the end of the race, they've moved to British Columbia, and Keegan was going back up to Alaska to get her treatment throughout the summer months, and then back down home to British Columbia. Jeff, of course, Canadian.
Heidi Beng, late. Welcome back to Beitostolen, up to the 2.2-kilometer stage. Johansson, who set a good time at 1K of 2:27. That's pretty sharp, but the initial part of the track is relatively easy. Now the hard work starts. Johansson with a decent lead, 6 seconds over Amundsen, the only athlete to have started in front of her. And I know it's early days and the seeds come later, but you have to take notice of anyone wearing a Norwegian suit, and we'll get a good idea of what the big names can do later on.
Well, lovely to see this track and the climbs, this section here. It looks like it's downhill. It's not. It's uphill. And the conditions, Patrick, look, we've got about a centimetre of new snow, so without doubt that's quite a tougher journey for these early starters.
Now, this is one of the big developments in cross-country skiing, certainly over the last decade. The amount of V2, the technique being used at the moment. 10 years ago, virtually everyone on the tour would have used Skate 1, V1 to get up that particular climb. But they're so much stronger, not just in the upper body. Really, it's about the core strength that the athletes have developed. Number 15, Julia Belger of Germany, comes from Oberwiesenthal. Her first World Cup season. I think she's slightly better in the Classic. World Cup points would be a big boost for her, and with only 59 starters, this might be her best opportunity of the season.
You can tell, can't you, the styles from different nations. The German skiers slightly stiffer, if you like, on the skis, more rigid. The Norwegians have beautiful flex through the legs and flow.
Istamina for Russia, another junior who's done exceptionally well, now has to try and make that transition to senior level.
Well, the 21-year-old, I have to say, the way she was staring down that clock there to release from the start gate, she's truly focused.
25% of the field Norwegian, 25% of the field under 23. So there's quite a strong contingent.
I think we're safe to say this section is the easiest part of the course, and they're only on it on each of the passage times.
Yeah, the first kilometre taking under 2.5 minutes. I think the split time for the 1K marker will come down to around 2:15, 2:20. 17 is Hennig, sorry Mike.
Yeah, Hennig, we saw there a little caption, Junior World Champs, that was back in 2016. Second in the 10-kilometre free.
Shirt sleeve order for Celia Slind. She's had a podium in her career, but she's in the early part of her career specialising in the sprint. I suspect she'll get better at the distance, but she's already 30, so we will see. That's quite an aggressive start from Slind.
A lot of strength there, the body. Her arms are slightly wider, slightly further, her hand slightly further forward than we've seen some of the experts show us.
Settling, looking very relaxed. Is she going to pip that time of Pipo coming up to 2.2? It's going to be close. She does. 1.5 seconds, and the leading time now 5:13 at 2.2. That's still pretty good. Ropinen, a veteran of the Tour, and her 226th World Cup today. She's only had 2 wins, but she has won a 15 freestyle, which is today's race. There aren't many 15 free. She did it in Rybinsk, but when you look at Rybinsk, you know that's where you go if you want to get a World Cup win, because so many of the big names don't go. But take nothing away from her. She's got 2 of them, and Ropinen starting 20, just 30 seconds ahead of USA's Caitlin Patterson.
Patterson, another from the Craftsbury Nordic Ski Club, where we see the top American biathletes from that club as well, a very good club, and not far short of the Canadian border, and only, what, about 100 k's south of Montreal. Nice smooth, that looks a very relaxed and easy start.
Quite a long drive with the legs, Mike.
Reaching well out. It's all about putting that huge impact of energy in and then trying to gain or rest on the glide in between the next compression through the legs. Well, the snow, Patrick, it was quite wet. It seemed quite wet earlier. Now it's the very soft, small snow, and when that small snow comes down, you can expect a lot of snow.
And you can also expect slower conditions. It's certainly not unheard of for the weather to determine the outcome of the race. If it keeps snowing throughout, Mike, maybe an advantage to go early. If it stops snowing in the next 10-15 minutes or so, obviously an advantage to go late. So those starting late are just keeping their fingers crossed. Most of the seeds starting, all the seeds starting in the second half of the field. We've not got down to the seeded numbers yet. 31 is the first seed away. That just happens to be Therese Johaug. So she is the hare today. 24 is Neshkaeva, and she won a 5-kilometre freestyle in Vashina recently, so she's on form. We're up to number 27, and it's Kerttu Niskanen for Finland. And the Finns hoping that Palmakoski shows her best form. She's not quite there yet. Niskanen, her only win coming in Lenzerheide back in 2014. And she'll be followed out of the starting gate by Astrid Jakobsen, a world champion from way back in 2007. She won the sprint title in Sapporo in 2007.
Yeah, young, 19-year-old she was then, and that was a good victory. Funny, strange race we raced, or they raced back into a football stadium for the finish of that race.
Now, Slind, is she going to push Sweden down into second place? Not quite, but It's close enough. Fourth place, just 2.9 separating the top 4 places at the moment.
You can hear the breathing there as she's going past the speaker.
Natalie von Siebenthal, and von Siebenthal for Switzerland. What was she, 17th in the world last year, 17th in the world the year before. So she'll be hoping to get another top 20 finish. Comes from Gstaad, which is a beautiful area, better known for its alpine skiing and its royalty than cross-country skiers. But it's a good area and quite a lot of altitude to train at. Elise Brocard.
Only 2 Italians in the lineup today. Sorry, three Italians. Pellegrini as well, number 14.
Yeah, they've lost their way a little, certainly in the women's events. Pellegrino keeping the Italian flag flying in the men's cross-country. But if you think back to the days of Albarello and Desault,
they had some great days. And, of course, in the women's field as well. Well, here's Therese.
The world #1. And you wouldn't have believed that she was starting a 15-kilometer. She doesn't start a sprint any faster than this. She goes absolutely hell for leather for the first couple of 100 meters, and then she'll settle down. But she wants to get a good position. That's quite a hard push out of the start gate, Mike. You get, what, 7-8 seconds where you can go max, and it does absolutely no harm at all. But it's almost impossible to believe that she's not building the lactate so early on in the race.
That's an incredible impact through the body straight away. A huge attack there. And she knows the terrain is kind after exiting the stadium, so she's buying her recovery there. But she's started with huge intent.
Usberg will be getting all the splits she needs off her teammate. Usberg actually producing a faster time in the 10-kilometer classic in Lillehammer last Sunday than Therese Johaug by some 2.1 seconds. So that will give her heart, but it was in the classic style. But
I'm going back to Ruka. Remember when Usberg started 2 minutes behind Therese Johaug, and she stayed with her for the first, I think it was first 7 kilometers, and then she totally blew out in the final 3. So by trying to stay with Therese Johaug's pace can be dangerous if you're not in your best form.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought Usberg looked so much better in Lillehammer just a week after Ruka. You know, the race rustiness, perhaps. Good strong start from Chika Kobayashi. Yulia Bararukova, who was the early leader in the World Cup standings. There's Heidi Weng, who hasn't stopped jumping and skipping and hopping around for the last 10 minutes.
Heidi Weng and Eva Andersson was just ahead of her there. I look at those two, similar build, similar attacking, aggressive race attitude. Real racing machines.
So Belarukova is away, identifiable with that enormous ponytail down the back. Now she still leads the sprint standings in the World Cup, but she, like Bolshinov in the men's tour, faded a little in the second week of the season. Now, Mike, the Russians generally come into the cross-country season with a lot of miles in their legs. Normally it would have been the other way round, subdued in Ruka, looking good in Lillehammer.
Yeah, it was quite strange to see the Russian team. But no real strangers. Bolshinov was always going to be on the podium a good number of times this year. But yes, they dropped off without a doubt. Bolshinov as well in Lillehammer. I'm sure they'll be back this time round.
Sadie Björnsson. And Björnsson has herself a podium finish already this season. She finished 3rd in the sprint event in Lillehammer. But what impressed me is that her distance racing was pretty sharp as well.
Yes, she's an improved athlete this season. And of course, her brother racing later in the men's race. Well, Niskanen, her brother at the Olympics shared, well, they both had a 4th position, didn't they, at the Olympics? And that must have been, as a family, pretty soul-destroying. Because Niskanen here got the, Kertu got 4th in the 30-kilometer free mass start in Sochi.
Now, are you a fan of head movement, or would you like to see the head just static, looking down the track in the direction of travel?
I think a static, it's everything is energy, storing energy, or less movements are more efficient. So I prefer to see it like this, sitting right in the middle.
Now, Johaug started number 31, so a minute and a half behind Jakobsen. I think we're looking at a 6, 7, maybe 8-second lead from Johaug when she goes through 2.2. We know she started fast. She's got a 4-second lead going through 1 kilometer as we watch the Olympic 10-kilometer champion set out here in Beitostolen. Haga, well, not quite as high a tempo as we saw from Johaug, but there's something about Haga that's not quite as relaxed or fluid as she was when we were in Pyeongchang.
Yes, and one of the biggest surprises, here comes Therese Johaug. Therese only had only a 3.7-second lead over Usberg at 1 kilometer.
Well, we'll get back with Johaug when she goes through 2.2, moving on to 6 kilometers to see how Setlin, who has not really been the pace setter in the early stages, some 5 seconds off the pace at the first intermediate, Setlin. And Johaug, wow, look at that, a set 8, double it, and you get closer to it. 16.1 at 2.2. This is a phenomenal start. Mike, how do you ski at this tempo for so long? Is it just a question, if you do it training, you can do it racing?
I think so. She's such a small frame, Therese Johaug, and the tempo is the way she operates. And I think you need to operate at that tempo. Jess Diggins just going through the picture there after her start.
Johaug has gone. Usberg, who matched her in the early stages in Ruka, maybe she's learned her lesson. She's still got a way to go before going through 2.2. Anything within 5 or 6 seconds is fine, I think, for Usberg.
Just sense how steep this climb is. That's the pity. We'll try and get the timing on our clock.
Heidi Weng, hyperactive, but looks hyper serious at the moment. And I just think I think we're going to see the fighting Heidi Weng today. We haven't seen her so far this season. Usberg through 9, 10 seconds down off Johaug, but I wouldn't panic at this stage. Even Johaug can go too fast in the early stages. And we have to remember, Mike, the women don't often race over 15 Ks.
No, they do not, or it's a combined. It's a 7.5 classic followed by the freestyle. So this is a rare event for them, but that's a huge lead at the moment for Johaug and Usberg, who is really on form in freestyle. At 2.2, she's got a 10-second lead.
Shiori Yokohama starting 46, Jonna Sundling just behind her for Sweden, who's having her best start to a season. Here is Rosie Brennan starting 45 for USA, and I've been impressed. Her form is going up every time she comes out. She's looking just that little bit better. Finished, what, 15th in the mini tour?
Yes, maturing, and I think when you're around someone like Jess Diggins and in the past Kikin Randall, you can't but be inspired and caught up in their positivity, where America can be great in cross-country skiing. They've proved that. Sorry to take that little soundbite. Still not used to that new Italian team colour.
Beitostolen and Parmakowski, of course, in pink. And she will have seen the leaderboard flash up the name of Therese Johaug. Here comes Björnsson towards the 2.2. She's still got that steep section to go. She won't be within 10 seconds of Johaug's lead. That is a blisteringly fast opening for Johaug, Mike. Only one individual race this weekend, so Johaug, I guess, is feeling she can let it all out.
Yes, relays tomorrow, of course, but yes, Johaug has set out with huge intent there, and if she maintains this pace, which she probably will, then she's going to take this victory by some margin.
Björnsson 9.7, so I guess an apology is in order, just inside that 10-second mark. Pretty much on the same pacing as Usberg of Norway, so not a bad start for Björnsson. Controlled.
That was composed and looks easy as opposed to the attacking Therese Johaug. Haga.
Well, Haga looked to be roughly the same as Björnsson, maybe a second or so inside Björnsson's time. If that holds true for 2.2, she'll be some 8 seconds behind Therese Johaug, and that will put her into second place. She might even be a little bit quicker than that. Good start from Ragnhild Haga. Form seems to be coming back. 5, 6, 7, 8, and she comes through at 8.9.
Well, that's a good start. And again, Haga looking relaxed, composed, just getting into the early part of her race. It's only 2.2 kilometers from 15.
So if you were her coach, would you say you're in second, or would you say you're 8.9 behind?
I think you'd have to let her know how well Therese is, or how far Therese Johaug is ahead of her.
You wouldn't say you're 1 ahead of Björnsson, 2 ahead of Usberg?
I think I would have to give her the gap, just to let her know that if she's taking it easy and she looked relaxed, so that she knows what's ahead of her. Difficult one. Some coaches play around with timings or give chosen pieces of information.
Neprayeva, 51st starter of 59. When we're 3 laps, there won't be too much congestion. We saw a lot of congestion in Lillehammer. Not too much traffic to deal with. 41, of course, is Jessie Diggins.
Excellent. That's it. That's on the pace, Patrick. 5.3 behind.
Yeah, promising start from her. And I'm just wondering, Mike, whether with these conditions and the weight of the snow, it really all depends on how thick the snow is falling, whether the later starters have the tracks more pressed or not.
I think definitely, because by the time starting here, at this stage 52, the track has been skied all the way around already. Lap 1, so definitely getting more and more pressed down.
Palmakoski's going to be the last out of the starting gate today. What's the highlight of her career? She was obviously hugely successful in Pyeongchang. She was amazing in Lahti in the World Championships there.
I think that's my standout, is Lahti, the World Championships.
Ebba Andersson now, what a start to the season she's had. Lying second in the World Cup, and she's hungry. She is hungry, and she knows. I think what she learnt in Lillehammer last week, Mike, is that she is good enough to beat Therese Johaug, and that's why we're seeing her start with such a positive effort.
Do you know what? She's like one of these busy collie dogs, you know, that love working. She just loves to chase and work hard.
Well, despite the body language from Weng at the start, she's given away 22 seconds to Johaug in that first 2.2. So she is losing, what, a second every 100 meters. You cannot afford that.
I'm just wondering, that seems a huge margin. I'm wondering if she's had a fall out there.
Well, if you look at Weng, she's not even in the top 10 at 1 kilometre. So if she did have a fall, it came in the first kilometre. Rosie Brennan for USA. That's not a bad effort either. All the Americans are upping the game. Therese Stadlober. Well, we've told you the story about her 30K in the Olympic Games many times, going the wrong way, dropping from second place down to 9th. Heartbreaking stuff from her. I think she's lost a few nights' sleep as we watch Brennan go through 2.2, and she's only 15 off the lead. It's not a bad start for her. Stadlober, of course, the daughter of Alois Stadlober, who was a competitor, what, in sort of 88 he started, raced all the way through to 99, 2000.
Yes.
But one of the gold medal relay team in Ramsau. I'm not sure how much credit you attach to that result.
Well, that was a long time ago, and a number of Russian athletes changed nationality to represent Austria at that time. But yes, it's the first ever victory at a World Championships in the relay.
Now, Charlotte Kalla, 3 gold medals to her name from the Olympic Games, 2 in the 10K, and of course she was part of that relay team in Sochi, and she was really the one that brought Sweden to victory, making up some 25 seconds on the last lap. One of the great races of 2014 where there wasn't any controversy. Johaug's time of 4:55, still standing at 2.2. Johaug has gone through 5 kilometers. 12:07 is her time. 47 seconds clear of the Finnish veteran Ropinen.
Well, it's going to be about, I reckon, a 38-minute race. Her first lap, she'll be slower second, a little slower third. So maybe 37, 38 minutes. I thought it would be a little tougher today in these new snow conditions.
And here is Parmakoski. The pink jacket has gone. Haven't seen her rushing around too much, so it's going to be interesting to see what sort of a start she goes through for. Is this a sprint event? Is it a distance event?
Well, 15, it is a distance, but they're starting as if it is a sprint.
Well, she looks every bit as intense as Heidi Weng. Let's hope she can come. The race leaders are through 11 kilometers. This is Johaug coming up towards 6. At the moment, she's got a very good lead at 5K of something like 31 seconds over Usberg, who's gone through. The green light, as you'd expect for Johaug. The question really, Mike, is has she gone too fast on the first loop? And the other question is, now that she's on to the second loop and the tracks are pressed, are we going to see her extend away from those who are giving her a bit of pressure, like Diggins and Neprayeva?
Yeah, quite possibly, and incredibly, her tempo, she's not even half distance yet, Johaug, and the tempo hasn't changed. She's still attacking. That was a composed, relaxed skate there for Neprayeva.
This is Ebba Andersson, and Andersson up towards... Andersson, what's she? She's gone through 2.2 and is 7.5 seconds off. So not a bad start from Andersson. I think that's clever pacing from her. Usberg, 36.3 behind at 6K, and she was 31 behind at 5. So she's lost another 5 kilometers, 5 seconds in that kilometer. That's an expensive loss for Usberg.
I'm very surprised when Usberg set the fastest time last weekend, only 7 days ago. I'm surprised to see her off form by so much today.
But she did come back in the closing stages. She fought really hard in the last 3 or 4 kilometers.
She did have the strongest finish, yes. Could she be so disciplined to allow a 35-second gap extend at this early stage?
We'll find out.
Look at the snow, it is still humping down.
You think of some of the great 30Ks that Johaug has skied, particularly that first one in the World Championships. And you know that she is one woman who is capable of keeping that tempo going all the way through the race. Charlotte Kalla coming up towards 2.2. Kalla went through the 1 kilometer stage, just 4.6 off the fastest time. Johaug and Neprayeva level at 1K, 2:21.9.
Jess Diggins has just gone through 5, 1/3 distance, and it's not great. She started so well. She's now 30 seconds behind Johaug.
Yeah, it looks as though we could be in for a winning time around 37 minutes. Charlotte Kalla doesn't get the green light. We weren't expecting that, but anything within 10 is acceptable. Obviously, a little less is better. 7.7, that will do nicely, but her endurance was the only thing that looked a little bit suspect in Lillehammer last week, Mike, fading in the last couple of kilometers to allow Andersson to come through and Usberg to overtake her in terms of fastest time on the day.
And Kalla, I must say, on the last picture we saw of her, is not quite as aggressive as last weekend. Björnsson, 3rd place, but 40.5 behind.
She's lost 5 seconds on that kilometer 6 as well. So Therese Johaug started the loop again and has absolutely exploded onto the start of the second lap. Parmakoski 2.2. Now this is okay. She's going to be, looks as though she may be a fraction inside the time we've just seen from Björnsson. Parmakoski goes through 5.8 the margin and into 3rd place. So at 2.2, Johaug leads. Diggins 5.3 behind. Parmakoski 5.8. Neprayeva of Russia 6.4. And Ebba Andersson, the newcomer on the World Cup scene, 7.5 behind. Ragnhild Hager up to 6 kilometers. She was 34 behind. We'd expect her to be 40 or so. She's exactly 40. So everyone losing 5 seconds at least to Johaug between the 5 and the 6 kilometer mark.
And you know what, Patrick? I think the 3rd lap around she'll do the same. Maybe even extend it more, Therese Johaug. She loves steep climbs.
So there you see the standings at 2.2. Don't read too much into it, but if anyone's 20 seconds behind, I think there's no chance of them featuring in the top 3 at the end of the day, and we have to go all the way down to number 19 before the margin is over 20 seconds. The Americans going well, the Norwegians, as expected, going well. The early starters are through 12.2, so it won't be too long before we have our first finisher here. Johaug's time of 14:46. Diggins, where was she lying? At 5 kilometers, she was in second, 30.6. That's gone to 37.4.
So Johaug is taking between 5 and 9 seconds off the next best big names.
Yeah, and imagine how depressing that is for the athletes. You think, right, I'm only 30 seconds behind, and suddenly that's gone to 37. And that is in the space of just over 2.5 minutes. Looking for win number 4 out of 4.
Well, that's a nice little take on what we've heard for so many years. On Shy.
Yeah, future champions though. It's just part of their blood. Get out on the tracks. We were up in Shushan at the end of last season, and one of those nice spring days with the sun out, and the local high school had a group out training, a mixed group, all in shorts, nothing else. And the guy at the back with a big boogie box and the latest tunes being played. It was a fantastic scene, but couldn't stay with them even if we'd wanted to. The speed, quite unbelievable.
Heidi Weng, the great name, she was what? She's won the last 2 overall World Cup titles, and she's a minute behind at not even half distance.
Yeah, it's not happening for Heidi quite yet, but her time will come this season. Illness, as we mentioned, has been a bit of an issue over the summer months. And some press saying that she's lost a month's worth of training, so maybe after Christmas we'll see her shine. Maybe the Tour de Ski is going to be her chance to make an impact this year. Rosie Brennan coming up to 6 kilometers at 5. Brennan was just inside the top 10, 51 behind. That margin, can she keep it there? No, that's grown as well. And we're looking at something like 57, 58, maybe even more than that.
Further down the track, Neprieva is still in 3rd place, but now 31 behind. She was the only one who threatened Johaug just at 1 kilometer, though.
No one within 30 seconds of Therese Johaug at the 5 kilometer stage. Is she going to set a winning margin of over 1.5 minutes? It's looking as if it is possible if she can keep this sort of pace going. Interesting to see number 55. That's Teresa Stadlober, who's tucking in behind her. And Stadlober is either committing suicide here because she's going to die at some stage if she keeps this pace going, but it might, on the other hand, bring her to a top 3 result. She's a gutsy performer to do this.
It's incredible, though, isn't it? Therese Johaug at the front has done 5 kilometers more. So Therese Johaug, just having started her race, well, in the earlier parts of her race. Great tactic, though.
Yeah, a little bit of fortune for Stadlober, but
if she can live with it.
If she can live with it, and if she can stay with Johaug for the rest of this loop, then she's only got 5K to survive after that. Sadova has gone through in 26. The margin is likely to be a minute or so. Johaug's lead at 7.2 currently stands at 38 seconds.
I'm just thinking, Therese Johaug has set a record of 6 straight wins in distance races at the beginning of any one season. If she wins this one today, and is likely, that'll be 4 in only the 2nd World Cup, the 3rd World Cup, I should say.
Yeah, we were talking about Stadlober's parents. Her father, as we mentioned, a cross-country skier. Her mother, a very good alpine skier. And it's a good combination, but Stadlober doesn't look relaxed there skiing behind Johaug. She's just seeing how long she can hang on in.
She's gutsy, she's a fighter, and hopefully she can, although once you start losing 4 or 5 meters, it begins to become tougher.
1:19 the margin at 10 kilometers for Therese Johaug. 1:19.04 Johaug, and the next big name to come through will be Østberg in around a minute and a half. Østberg started a minute exactly behind Therese Johaug.
So that's 10 kilometers completed from Johaug at the front. That's 5 kilometers from Stadlober behind her, and it's not bad from Stadlober, 34 seconds behind, but in 6th place.
And climbing the order, because she wasn't in the top 10 going through the 2.2. So the presence of Johaug has helped, but 10 to 11 is the same track as 5 to 6, and that is where Johaug has destroyed everyone else. So if Stadlober is still with Johaug at 11 kilometers, then we know she is going to produce a good result today.
Do you know, I think she might stay with her, because when you look at Therese Stadlober, she's a very lightweight athlete, and it is the brutal climb we talked about earlier, where that margin of time, Therese is taking off everybody.
Østberg 38 behind at 7.2. Likely to be over 40 seconds behind now, going through 10K, but still in a strong position to take a podium finish.
Østberg's so experienced now, she does have the strength to run her own race, and I think she will come stronger at the end.
Anderson has done well. Anderson second fastest going through 5K, 21.2 behind, but she likewise has lost 5 seconds. Incredible stuff. No one matching Johaug between 5 and 6. But Anderson's still holding on to second, and actually she's got herself an 8-second margin over 3rd place, which is currently held by Neprayeva. Here comes Østberg through the 10-kilometer mark.
It was 38 behind, and now it's huge. Nearly a minute.
54, so some 16 seconds lost between 7.2 and 10.
Well, Østberg not able to latch on to her fresh legs of a later starter.
Stadlober's still there. She is still there as they come up towards 11 kilometers. This is 6 for Stadlober, so we're going to see how much it's helped. Last time we saw Stadlober, Mike, going through 5, she was 34 seconds behind, down in 9th position. Has this climb up the hill helped her position? I think it has, dramatically. She could go into the top 4 here. She goes into 5th, just behind Østberg, and if she stays there, my money is on Stadlober getting onto the podium.
Well done. Great learning for Stadlober, how to cope with tempo, extreme attack, and she's living with it. But remember, her legs are 5 kilometers fresher than Johaug's.
That's true. And then she's going to have one 5K loop to do on her own. That's going to be a big test for Stadlober. But I think she's going to get so many positive splits between now and then that her spirits may be high when she starts her final loop. Here comes 57, which of course is Charlotte Kaller. Kaller at 7.2. In fact, she hasn't got a 7.2. She's coming up to 6. Kaller was 34 behind. So, judging by everyone else, she should be 40 seconds behind going through. But maybe she has been able to hold on to the pace. 34. It's extended a little.
She will still keep herself with a chance for maybe 2nd place.
Yeah, 2nd fastest between 5 and 6 for Charlotte Kaller. That bodes well for a top 3. Well, the Norwegians will be enjoying what they're seeing so far today. One of their own, destroying the rest of the field. Johaug has gone through 11 kilometers. Her lead there is 1:22. At 10K, Østberg is the only one to have got inside a minute, but lots of the big names still to come through. Parmakoski, the next of them at 5 kilometers. Parmakoski in 3rd place, 25.5 behind. Looks as though she's pretty much matched Charlotte Kaller over this section and lost just a few seconds. She needs to get past Østberg. Parmakoski.
Well, Østberg just seems to have picked her pace up. At 10 kilometers, she was 54 seconds behind. Now, 1 kilometer later, she's only lost 2 seconds. So it does appear that Østberg is picking up her pace.
Or alternatively, Johaug is just starting to slow a little after all the effort she's put in the early stages. There are the standings at 6, no one else to go through that stage. And Johaug, Anderson, Palmakoski, the top 3, just in case you missed them. Nepraeva of Russia having a good run at 34 seconds. Usberg 5, Stadlober 6, Diggins 7, and Charlotte Kalla in 8. The skiathlon Olympic champion, Charlotte Kalla.
Haga going through 10 kilometer, but 1:15 behind. Third place, but 1:15 behind. The margins are huge today.
12.2, and Johaug into the lead at 7.2. Stadlober has just gone up into 4th place, which is, she's gone up another 2 places. So she is hitching a lift and benefiting massively from Therese Johaug. But that is how cross-country works. There have been some tremendous races where that has helped, particularly the long-distance ones, the 50Ks. Welcome back to Beitostolen. We're at the 12.2 kilometer stage of this 15K, just about to come through. 33 is Usberg, 59 the last starter, Krista Palmakoski. Usberg going 1:01, and the last split we got was at 11. She was 56, so another 5 seconds lost from Therese Johaug, and Usberg will be a little bit depressed by the split she's getting, but I'm pretty sure the coaches will have stopped giving time details to Therese Johaug.
I think they'll be giving the time details on the second fastest athlete, because Johaug is such a runaway victory at the moment. Will she hit the wall? Will she be getting tired? Doubtful. I think, though, the conditions have also played into the hands of Johaug with her extremely light body weight. This new snow, you have to lift your legs quite high, or if you're a heavier athlete, you press down deeper. I'm impressed with the spectators. You don't see an awful lot of action in the stadium area, just the athletes coming through 3 times.
$18 is Schlind of Norway. 20, Ropinen has taken a full minute off Schlind, and she's taken Brocard with her, so Schlind needs to jump onto this train. Ropinen working so hard. This is a really impressive performance from the 40-year-old. She's a gutsy performance.
I mean, this is inspiring, isn't it? 40 years and 7 months, and she's still managing to compete with the best. 5 Olympic Games, and I think 7 World Championships. Many medals in the relay team over World Cups and World Championships and Olympics.
Yeah, the Finns sort of come and go, don't they? Go back to 1988, and they had a fabulous women's team taking medals in Calgary. And then early days of the Tour de Ski.
Yeah, Murninen was sprinting well back in those days. Kiloinen, they're still racing now.
Saarinen. So, across the line, Ropinen, a 44 inside the previous best, but that time is going to tumble fairly soon. But that was a good, powerful finish from Ropinen. Number 9 is Setlin, who has to step aside and hand the chair over to the grand old lady of the cross-country tour at the moment. Ropinen deserves to put her feet up. That was a brilliant performance over the last couple of K.
Wow, it's so much hard training throughout the years, Ropinen.
Fastest time at 12.2 is 30.03. And Sadie Bjørnsen, a long way off. I was expecting a little better. I thought the start from Bjørnsen was respectable, but she's faded badly on this last 5K. 150 down, 5th place at the moment. But with that sort of a margin, I suspect she'll tumble down to 7 or 8.
Well, it's a destruction of the field today from Johaug. She didn't have an advantage by such an early bib, 31, letting all the others know her pace. And sometimes you can hold on, or it can improve your race by getting split times of a faster athlete ahead of you. But Johaug just purposely went out so strong to demoralize everybody.
Haga 115 behind at 10K. And that margin has grown dramatically to 129 now. So she's trying to hang on in for the last 3K or so.
It looks further back down the track, Patrick, that Ebba Andersson is going to be most likely the main contender. She's 31 behind at 7.2 kilometers.
Yeah, we'll try and track Andersson through 10K. She'll be there fairly shortly. 53 is Ebba Andersson. And coming up towards the 10 kilometers marker now. Sedova into the finish.
Sedova, she was such a good junior, 2 times third position in distance racing, and won victory at Junior World Championships.
Now, will Stadlober be tucked in behind Johaug when we see her next? It's been a while since we've seen those two. Sedova comes across the line to take the lead. Out goes Andersson, 47 behind, but still in second place. And another second place finish would be fantastic. She's already been on the podium twice this year, looking to become the next Swedish woman to claim a win. Here is Johaug.
Here is Johaug, no sight of Stadlober. The pace was phenomenal, and Stadlober will be going through a very tough time now to try and recover and continue the final 5 kilometers. What a tempo.
Started fast. She's going to finish fast as well. And it's just a question of how big the margin is. She was 56 clear at 11. She was 101 clear of Usberg going through 12.2. I don't think there's much doubt, Mike, that she's going to be a minute clear of all those who've finished already.
Oh, very much so. It's going to be a minute 15 or a minute 20.
Yeah, I think the rest of the field will be glad there's not a pursuit race tomorrow, because they wouldn't see anything of Therese Johaug. The win is going her way. 1:23 inside, 30.03 at 12.2. Her finishing time, 37.33. That is phenomenal in these conditions. And I have no doubt that she's going to make that 4 wins from 4 races for this season. Her record of successive distance races is 6. So only 2 more to go.
Spectacular performance. And just the whole mindset, the attacking attitude. We saw her start from the gun like a sprinter, and she seemed to maintain that all the way through. How's your Norwegian?
Well, I missed that. Kalle coming up to 10 kilometers. Kalle at 7.2 was in 7th place, 42 behind. And she's still got, what, another 80 meters before the clock will stop. Might still stay in the top 5.
Unfortunately for Stadlober, trying to stay with Therese Johaug has come at a price. At 7.2, Stadlober was only 41 seconds behind. 3Ks later, she is a minute 20 behind, so total explosion there. And
worth trying, though? I
think so. I think it was, maybe you could say it's suicidal, but worth a try. What do you have to do to work at that pace? Need some engine.
She's going to be there a while.
All day.
Yeah, there's no one going to budge her from that sit. I'd ask for an extra pelt.
Hot water bottle, coffee, blankets.
Palmakoski into 10K, and we saw Palmakoski going through 7.2 in 4th place, 40 seconds behind. She's going to be, well, a long way. Usberg coming into the finish, started exactly a minute behind Johaug. She finishes 2 minutes and 6 seconds behind, so the deficit 1:06. Not a bad effort. Just looking at Usberg's place, she's gone down into 3rd at 11K, so she might get herself on the podium again.
Do you know, I think we might be looking at Usberg as 2nd place, really, because she paced it so well, took it easy to begin with, and she's punched the pace harder and harder in the last 5 kilometers.
Well, the question is, can Ebba Andersson hold the pace that she set early on? Andersson's still lying in 2nd place at 11K, and she's now closing in on the finish, but she started number 53, so we've got 10 minutes or so before she'll cross the line. The women's 15-kilometer freestyle here at Beitostolen has proved too big a test for many of the athletes. Stadlober has dropped away. This is Nepraeva, who started very fast indeed, had one of the best splits going through 2.2. Andersson Here she is. Now, Anderson was sitting in second last time we saw her at 10K, and the margin was 53 seconds. It's grown a little, but only to 58. That puts her in second again, and she has a lead over Usberg of some 3 seconds. At the last split, she was 3 seconds clear as well. So those two are moving at the same pace now. Anderson's advantage is she will be getting splits on Usberg.
Yeah, that's a big positive, isn't it? To know that you're now only 3 seconds ahead of Usberg. Anderson will have to lift her game.
But at 10K, Mike, that margin was set 7 seconds. So Usberg moving faster between 10 and 12.2.
Exactly, and further back at 5Ks, I think it was yeah, just over 10 seconds. So yeah, they're running much the same, but Usberg definitely pushed so much harder over the last 4 kilometers.
Haga trying to get herself a top 7 position. She's down in 8th position at 11. She's in 7th at 12.2.
Well, it's so rare. If ever, I'm just trying to think back to the last 15 kilometers. There haven't been many, but it's so rare that you get an athlete breaking the field by over a minute. And I think that will be the case today. So athlete number 2, 1 minute behind the leader. We'll have to wait and see, but I think that will be the case.
The Americans keen to point out that their emphasis for this year is on the World Championships in Seefeld and not expecting too much form before Christmas. I think that's just what we've seen. Haga at 1:55.
That's the Olympic champion, nearly 2 minutes behind.
Yeah, the Olympic champion at 10K in this technique. She's into 4th. Jessie Diggins down into the finish area now. 1:13 behind already. If she can get inside 1:23, she'll go ahead of Sedova, but I don't think she's quite going to manage that.
Strong finish from Jess. The last couple of kilometers have been a very powerful finish.
1:55, the next mark. So Haga is going down to 5. Jessie Diggins into 4 at 1:29. Yeah, she's dug very, very deep. And Diggins down in 7th at 11 kilometers. So she's worked hard in the closing stages. Charlotte Culler, the margin 1:04. That puts her ahead of Nepraeva at 12.2.
And the way that Charlotte can dig so deep, we've seen it many, many times in the last couple of kilometers. You have to maybe now hand the advantage to Kalla.
Yeah, Kalla's looking good, actually. Between 10 and 12.2, she's only lost 2 seconds to Therese Johaug. No one else has managed to hold that. So possibly Kalla is going to go into 2nd place, Mike. Usberg is 1:06 behind.
Parmakoski getting all the information. She needs it. She's at the very back of the field. She's got it all in front of her. But can the brain connect with the muscles to move faster?
The Finn 1:07 behind at 11. And if she can get within 1:04, she'll go into the top 4. Not quite. Not quite, but only a couple of seconds to gain. Nepraeva 1:16 behind. She's going to be inside the Russian. So a choice, defend that position or try and chase Charlotte Kalla.
It's a big task now to move up into 3rd place for the podium. She's got to find 11 seconds, and that's a tall order at this stage in the race.
So with everyone through 12.2, here are the standings. Anderson 58.3 behind in 2nd place. We've got Usberg in 3, Kalla 4, Parmakoski 5, Nepraeva in 6, and you can see the positions further down. 43 has to be Heidi Weng, who started fast but lost the pace very, very early on. Hasn't featured in the top 10 of the standings at any stage, but she's obviously finished pretty well. And Heidi Weng going into 8th for now, 2:31. She will not hang on to a top 10. That margin just too big.
Heidi Weng just nowhere near her former self from the last 3-4 seasons. I know she's had some setbacks, but must be a little worrying for her to be 2:31 behind.
Skornes just finishing. Next of the big names to come across the line will be Rosie Brennan, started 45 for the USA. No sign of Brennan in the top of the standings going through 12.2, so maybe we have to wait for the likes of Ida Ingmar's daughter. We haven't seen her at all today, Mike. Started 49. and not featuring in the standings either. Here's your champion. Interesting to see Therese Johaug in that slow-mo, the flexion of the elbow, not 90 degrees, which most people plant at. She was closer to 130, 140. It was all about dropping the little body weight that she has down through the sticks. So she's not relying on arm strength at all.
No, she's locking the arms, and as you say, just collapsing her 42, 43 kilos down, locking onto the poles and pressing out through the ski at the same time.
Yeah, very much in contrast to Stadlober, who was just behind her, and you can see that's why Johaug manages to ski with such a high tempo.
Well, here she is. Ingmar's daughter was running around 12th to 15th at the last check mark, but now she's coming into the finish. That was after the big names had come through. And Stadlober, we saw her up into 3rd place when she was chasing Johaug. Last check at 12.5, she was down in 10th place. Still good, still very good.
1:39 behind for Stadlober. This is Neprayeva, one of the faster skiers early on, still lying in 4th at 2.2. But then it started to go wrong after that. And I think paying the price for trying to chase the time of Johaug in the early stages. She won't be the only one today who's made that error. But I guess you've got to try. You learn more from your mistakes than you do from playing safe.
And she is a sprinter, Neprayeva, and in all honesty, she's more of a classic technician than a freestyle athlete.
2:11 for Ingmar's daughter. That won't be good enough for a top 10. Need to be within 1:30 to get into the top 10. Here comes Anderson.
Strong finish, very strong finish.
1:06 Usberg is sitting at the moment. And Jessie Diggins lying 5th. So the top 5, Johaug, Usberg, Sedova, Neprayeva, Diggins. I don't think there's much doubt that Ebba Andersson is going to shake up those top 5. She won't touch Johaug, but will she get inside that time of 1:06? 20 seconds to do the last 200 meters. A nice little boost as she drops down the hill and into the stadium. I think she's just going to squeeze in front of Usberg. 6 seconds, 40 meters to go. It's going to be very tight. 4, 5. No. Usberg's had the better finish, and Ebba Andersson now has to wait and see what Kalle does in the closing stages. She goes 3rd. Norway 1 and 2 at the moment. 1:08.8. Usberg's pacing very, very good indeed. A confident start. I think Usberg learning from the first weekend in Ruka, where she chased Johaug and paid a heavy price.
She paid an extremely heavy price. That is such good pacing from Usberg, but Ebba Andersson had all the information, and I'm a little surprised she didn't manage to hold Usberg back. Therese just doing the calculations. Yep, nobody can touch me. I'm a minute ahead of anybody.
Yeah, she can relax, but she will keep a careful eye on Charlotte Kalle. She knows what a talent Kalle is. 14 to go. Now, we saw at 12.2 that Kalle was 1:04 off the pace. If she's managed to match Johaug in the last 2.8 kilometers, then Charlotte Kalle is going to go into 2nd place ahead of Usberg. So we've got Usberg at 1:06, Andersson at 1:08, and then a big gap down to Sedova at 1:23. It's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th for Kalle. The clock is counting.
Theresa Stadlober to her left or right, and this is a fabulous attack into the finish from Kalle.
Kalle's taken a minute out of Stadlober, who's suffering, but suddenly finds a 2nd, or is that a 3rd win that she's found for the closing stages, and using another athlete now. Shows what sort of a mind. She's got a fighter's mind there, but I guess she'll regret slightly the fact that she stuck with Johaug so long. 45 seconds. Remember, the margin is 20. This is going to be very, very tight. She's got to try and get inside 1:06. Still has 10 seconds to make the line. 80 meters or so to go for Charlotte Kalle now. And the clock keeps ticking. It's going to be close. Usberg watching on. Johaug watching on from the leader's chair. She is safe. And Usberg just denied. Pushed down into 3rd.
0.3 of a second.
The Olympic skiathlon champion takes second place, taking full advantage of the information she got on the way round, and she's pushed her teammate off the podium. How tight between second and fourth. What a huge margin between first and second.
Incredible finish, advantage without a doubt to Kala. Parmakoski's still out there, but she wasn't. There she is, not quite pushing the same as Kala.
Parmakoski last we saw was 1:12 behind.
No, she's not going to make it. Quite amazing when you see there's a minute and 5 seconds gap from first to second, but you've got another minute gap back to ninth. So there's just this the elite of the elite at the top end of the women's field in cross country.
Yeah, I think you can safely say that if you were to name the top 5 before the start today, you would have come up with Andersen, Usberg, Kala, Johaug and Parmakoski. And they are all settled neatly in the top 5 today. They're a decent margin. Sadova's done well. She's going to be pushed down to 6. Netbraeva in 7 as Parmakoski, actually Parmakoski going 6 just behind Sadova, just missing out. Eased up in the last 20 meters and it's cost her a place. But Johaug is champion again, takes another 100 points to push her tally up to 500. She's only competed in 5 events. Unbelievable. Full marks to her.
Yes, quite incredible. She's got a lot of push and maybe something to prove from her 2-year ban, or coming back after a 2-year ban.
Now, they have a saying in Norway, those on form, on brilliant form before Christmas are Christmas stars, and stars tend to burn out.
You would normally think that could happen, but Therese Johaug, she's had 6 straight distance race wins in her past pre-Christmas, and then going on to do so well, pick up the overall World Cup title. We'll have to wait and see. But that's destruction of the field. 1 minute 5 seconds, unusual.
And there's confirmation. Kala, the Olympic skiathlon champion, in second. Usberg on the podium again. She's such a consistent competitor, always good, a good watch in the Tour de Ski after Christmas as well. Ebba Andersen, the new kid on the block, goes 4th today, just denied by a couple of seconds, but another good result. I think she's here, and it won't be too long before we see Ebba Andersen get a win. Will it be this season?
I think so. You have to put Johaug on a bad day and Kala on a bad day, or difficult conditions. I think without a doubt Ebba Andersen will take a title.
2 minutes between the top 10.
Incredible. Let's watch the men's race later. There's going to be 2 minutes between the first 35.
Johaug, 2.5% plus better than everyone else out there. There's your podium. Johaug, Kala and Usberg. Doesn't come much higher quality than that.
Usberg going early as well. Was that a slight disadvantage with the snow? It certainly wasn't for Therese Johaug.
Yeah, I don't think the snow conditions stayed pretty consistent throughout the race. I think only those who went off in the first 15-20 had a slight disadvantage on their first lap. No major surprises today, and always nice to race at home. There's always someone in the crowd, you know. Business as usual, and there you have 2 Norwegians in the top 3, and just looking further down the list, the Americans led this time by Jessie Diggins. Nice to see her coming back to some sort of form. I think each time out we'll see her get closer to the top of the table. Stadlober in the end finishes 11th. She got as high as 3rd, hanging in behind Therese Johaug. It was a brave tactic. Had it been a 10K race, that would have been perfect for Stadlober.
Certainly would. It was a brave strategy. Yes, she did drop off badly after that increase of 5 kilometers increased pace.
Loinen of Finland will be disappointed with that. The margin, 4.5 minutes, almost 2 kilometers behind Therese Johaug, the winner here today. She gets her 5th win of the season. Østberg, an early start for her, and she makes it 51 podiums. 11 wins in her career, but 51 podiums shows you just how consistent she is. Fourth in the freestyle race in Lillehammer a week ago. Charlotte Kalla had all the information when she came across the line. She knew exactly what she had to do, and she pipped Østberg by 0.2 of a second. That lunge for the line, gaining her second place. But the story really is all about the domination of Therese Johaug. 37.33, her time for 15 kilometers, giving her a winning margin of 1 minute and 5 seconds. A phenomenal percentage ahead of the rest of the field. Is she going to win all the distance races this year?
It looks so like it, doesn't it? You can't match that tempo, her strength, her endurance. So from 5 races this season, that's 4 victories. The only one she didn't medal in was the sprint competition.
You'd be a brave person to bet against her winning the overall, because look at the lead that she's got now. Johaug 131 points clear of Charlotte Kalla, who's moved up into second. Eva Andersson has gone from second down into third. So great rivalry going on between the young and the old in the Swedish team. That is just what they needed. In the Norwegian team, well, they're being led now by Therese Johaug, now that Marit Bjørgen has retired. I guess a lot of Norwegians will be saying, if only Marit had stayed, we would have seen the greatest battle of all time.
I think, well, or yes, or would Marit be able to match this? I don't think so. Would be good to see Marit come back for a couple of races.
I've still got my money on her appearing in the Holmenkollen 30 at the end of the season. Not massive crowds.
It's the only 50K
on
this year's calendar. How did you prepare and how did it go for you?
Oh, I was really tired after Lillehammer last week, but I have some quiet days at home now and just relaxing, and I feel that the shape was really good today. I think that was my best race this season. I have a good energy all the way and could push myself and just have focus on the technique. So I'm really happy to be at the top of the podium again, and especially here in Beitostolen. I think this is my place.
Also your place with your snow, first real snow as well. How did that feel?
Oh, it's really nice here now. It comes a lot of snow this weekend, and it's just winter now. It's Christmas, and it's beautiful conditions here. So I love it.
Congratulations for a really strong race.
Oh,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Not only does she get the win, she goes ahead of Russia's Elena Velber on the number of podiums that she's achieved in her career. She goes on to 80. Marit Bjørgen notching up 99 podium finishes in her World Cup career. And it's also Johaug's 13th victory in Norway.
Yes, those hands are quite close to her shoulders, getting huge compression through the edge of her skis.
You can see the tension in the shoulders of Stadlober behind Johaug. It was inevitable that she was going to fade at some stage. No slowing down. I wonder whether Johaug should have said, oh, it wasn't such a good race. I've got more to come, just to depress the opposition even more. 37.33. So what a start, what a display of talent from Johaug. We do have one more race to come from Beitostolen. It is, of course, the men's 30K, twice the distance. Bolshinov, will he be back on form? Will it be Iverson's day? Will Andy Musgrave be able to pull a podium finish out of the bag? And of course, Norway on fine form in Lillehammer last week. They'll be looking for another clean sweep. Sundby's here, Klæbo is here. The first long distance race of the season. Well, that starts at 11 o'clock UK time, so in an hour and 10 minutes or so. Your money for the men's race, Mike?
It's a tough one. A number of top athletes. I don't think Tønseth will do what he did last week in this race. I don't think he'll take it today. I'd love to see Muzzy, and I do believe Muzzy can threaten and maybe even place himself in the top 3. He's a very early starter, though, at I think 33. That is a disadvantage. And Dario Colonia, of course, he's on form. Bolshinov has got an advantage. He starts at the back of the field.
So what race do you think Musgrave stands his best chance of getting a World Cup win this season? Is it a 15? Is it a 30? It's definitely in freestyle. Is it a mass start? Is it a time trial?
It's certainly, you're right, 15-kilometer, and normally a pursuit competition. But he will, you know, where he has in the past set the second and the third fastest time over 15-kilometer, but he was starting further back in the field. So he really is a hunter. So mass starts, I think, are maybe his best. His big strength, like we saw in Lahti at the World Championships. 50-kilometer, finishing 4th was outstanding, and only 2.7, I think it was, behind the gold medal. Shows the strength in him. And I think Muzzy's technique has improved again this year. More mature, he's 28-year-old now. I'm ready for a podium. Hope he is.
Charlotte Kalla leads the way out to the flower ceremony. Thought there might be more spectators here, but it is, as we mentioned, a very small village. Plenty of cabins. It swells in at Christmas time.
I think the cabins double the number of the residents in this town, and there are more being built all the time. Just like having a car, every Norwegian seems to have a hute.
Yeah, summer one and a winter one. Delighted for Østberg. Slightly frustrated that she missed second place by just 0.2 of a second. But that was the disadvantage of starting second amongst the seeds. Charlotte Kalla, another podium, and moves up into second place in the overall standings. That's her 3rd podium of the season. But for Therese Johaug, she's won 3 distance races prior to today. She took the mini tour, so this effectively goes down as her 5th win of the season. 500 World Cup points to her name already.
Just wonder what Heidi Weng, who took the overall World Cup score last year, down in 14th, but more significantly, 2:31 behind. She's got a lot of work to do. She's got a lot of form to find.
Yeah, how much cheese has Johaug got at home already?
She'll have a little shop going outside the house.
World's best, and a highly, highly decorated podium today. Kalla, the golden girl of Swedish skiing on the left of your screen. Johaug, the new golden girl of the Norwegian team with the retirement of Marit Bjørgen. What a race, more to come. 11 o'clock for the men's 30.